Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to acknowledge the people who is organizing this meeting, which is so, so impressive. So many knowledge together. It's a kind of, rich food for the minds, for our minds. I like it very much. Let me first present my part. I am a doctor in paleontology, so I'm going to speak about the biodiversity, not exactly the present diversity, which I think is, the paleodiversity is the way we are here because we have a past, and I think we need to know the past to see how is our present and how we are going to be in the future. I work as a professor at the University of Zaragoza, which is a small city in Spain, in between Madrid and Barcelona, you can say. And my work group is called Aragosaurus. I have a pointer here. With this, yeah, which is the name of the first dinosaur ever found in Aragon, my region. Okay, I'm going to speak about the biodiversity of locality which is famous in Europe. You don't know for sure, but in Europe it's very famous because we found there the first fossils of humans. So let me first take a look about what human evolution is in Europe. First, the geological, geographical, and chronological settings. We are dealing with the last part of the geological history, which is very long for you, I am sure, but for geologists almost nothing, is the last 2 million years of the history of the Earth. We are going to speak about the last 1.2 to the present. For sure, you know the human evolution starts in Africa, especially in East and South Africa, with species of, I must say that the biodiversity of humans was more rich 2 million years ago and 5 million years ago than it is now. Now we are the only species of our Homo family, the hominids, but 5 million years ago there were 3 species of Homo in Africa: Homo ergaster, Homo habilis, Homo rhodesiensis, and the people is always discussing the taxonomic status of the species. And about 2 million years ago, the Homo species spread out from Africa to Eurasia, and they went through the east. You maybe now the Homo of Java Homo, the Homo of Flores, which is more recent, from Indonesia, and the Homo from Georgia in the Mid-Caucasus, and the Homo from Western Europe, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Italy, and some other places, which is my object of study. So if you see this is the geographical map. If you see the chronological line, we see that we have stars. These are the records of Homo species in Europe. The first ones are around 1.2 million years old. You see here there is nothing, and you see here around 900,000 years old we have one species, and then we have a gap, we have nothing in Europe during this time, and then we have a slowly but steadily spreading of Homo localities in Europe. Those are mainly the so-called Homo heidelbergensis, the predecessors of the Neanderthals, or so for some people there is a new species, but all of them are in the group of the Neanderthals group. And after more or less 200,000 years old, a new outside from Africa. There was a new species, Homo sapiens, our species, which went from Africa again to colonize Europe, and this species, our species, supposedly eliminated all other species Homo in the world. And after that, of course, Homo sapiens spread out to Americas, to the Western Pacific Islands, everywhere. So our species can be also named the traveler. We are the travelers, we are the conquerors. Well, let me speak about this part of the history. All the important sites in Europe can be synthesized in one, which is this small hill. It's a hill of limestones. Limestones is a geological term for a rock which is soluble in water. So the cavities, caves, and karst fillings are plenty with the sediments which come from outside to the cavities. Every important site in the world, Homo floresiensis, for instance, is found in caves. Why? Because caves are a sort of final ending of all the products from outside. So the landscape can be reconstructed by the contents, the records of the cavities. So this small hill, it's called Atapuerca Hill, and it is plenty with caves. These caves are plenty with sediments, and these sediments are archaeologically and paleoanthropologically and paleontologically very rich in elements. So I'm going to speak about this. This small hill is nothing else than 1,000 meters high, and it's in between high Rhine mountains, which is called the Iberian Mountains, and the Cantabrian Mountains here, and the Pyrenees here, which divides France from Spain. And the particularity of this geographical region is that the large herbivores, the large fauna, the deers, the horses, the elephants, had to come from the Mediterranean, more warm, but more dry regions, to the Atlantic regions, to the Portugal regions, to look for food during the summertime. So Atapuerca Hill was placed in a very important pass or migratory channel of faunas, of large faunas. So I have to say that the diversity is especially rich, especially in mammals and other vertebrates. We have more than 150 vertebrate taxa, including from bats, rabbits, rodents, large herbivores, squirrels, castors, or beavers, porcupines here, and, well, Homo, of course, species, and everything. We classify, well, not only me, but we are a team of more than 150 people. Some are specialized in large mammals, some are specialized in small mammals. I am a specialist in small mammals, especially rodents. And we classify, we make the taxonomy, and we study the animals in the geological column. Okay. This could be the landscape where humans lived during this time, with rhinos, with hippopotamus, with several kinds of deer, with elephants, with also other small mammals that are not visible here. Let me tell you something about these caves. The caves of Atapuerca, this is a speleological schema of the caves that is made by the speleologists which are studying the caves. It's typically divided in two parts. One is the the so-called the Trinchera caves, and the other one is the Cueva Mayor caves. I must say that there are different archaeological and paleontological sites, and we study it with a geological methodology that is, we start from bottom to top, numbering the layers. You must know that each layer represents a time, maybe 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years. We only know the exact age of some of these layers because dating the geological layers is very difficult. Here we have, especially in TE9, we have with cosmogenic methodology, we have this layer dated in 1.2 million years old. And here we have, here in TE18, we have around 200,000 years. Well, the methodology is the used in archaeology. We excavated from the top to the bottom, just layer by layer, as you are opening a book and passing one layer and one page to another page. And in each layer, we found fossils, we found their lithic industries, stones made by humans, and the animals that they use for eat and for make another tools. Okay, those are the layers. And I want to show you that in this layer, the TE9, remember it was dated in 1 million, more than 1 million. We found that the first human from Europe in 2007, and it was published later in Nature. We found an old person, probably a man, but it is not sure. With the mandible, we cannot see. You see this mandible with the teeth very, very abrased, very used. And with this human record, we found also some lithic industries that were very primitive. I mean, they were primitive as the first Africans of the so-called Old Dubai culture in Ethiopia did. So we have a very primitive Homo species, culturally speaking at least. Well, the other locality, this locality was the Elefante locality because it was found a fossil of an elephant there. This is the Grandolina. The Grandolina is a large cave. In this cave, we found a paleomagnetic reversal, which is dated exactly in 0.78 100,000 years old. And just below this layer, this lady called Aurora found several bones that at the beginning it was confused, but we found later that they were bones of humans. And those bones, that is particularly interesting, were presenting cut marking that are typical of cutting with stones. So those humans here were eaten by another humans. They are only the only one who can make these cut marks. Okay? Maybe you can see here, those are the limits of the cave. Here is the limestone. Here the red sediments are the sediments that go into the caves. So we make our geological study is just to put each fossil that we found in the stratigraphical order. It is to put in geological time. This means that this fossil here, from TE8, is older than the TE19. In 2 years later of the mandible, we found a tooth of the same mandible. So it is possible that the mandible, the people came into the cave, was inside the cave, and the several bones were broken. And also, together with the tooth, we found we found beavers. We found 19 different species, of which of them are aquatic animals. So we found that this part of the history of the humans in Atapuerca, they were very near to water source, or they needed to be near water source. Of course, you can see here they were together with some species, extinct species of ursus, which is bear, some species of hyenas, and some species of rhinoceros, and many other mammals. And in younger levels, we found also some the beginning of the crocuta species, the hyena, dotted spotted hyena, and also the lion, the European lion, Homotherium, and another human species, which is called Homo antecessor. This is different from the human of the mandible I show you. This is more childlike features. It is more gracile, more less robust, and this is another species. And then at the end of the column, in around 500,000 years old, we found another species which is called, or was called, Homo heidelbergensis, but now the taxonomists, the paleoanthropologists are thinking that it is a new species they have to name yet. So, what is my work with my team in Zaragoza? We are around 10 people working on small vertebrates, birds, bats, amphibians, and reptiles, and mammals, is that to count first, to classify the species, then count by particular habitats. This first column is the open dry small mammals. Here we have the open humid small mammals, woodland or woodland habitat mammals, and rock and water inhabitants. So what we see is here in this part, as you remember, I told you this is the paleomagnetic reversal. In this part, we see there is a change in the composition of the small mammals. The small mammals that were more related to humid lands were mostly extinct, and there is the beginning of a dry conditions. If you remember in the first part, the column, there was a gap between the humans that we found 1 million years old, for just to make it easier, and 500,000 years old, there was a gap. So we think humans were very sensible to this change in in the climate. They were habituated, they were adapted to humid and more fresh conditions, and they went extinct. The first species went extinct when the conditions become drier and the land was open. But at the end, this open landscape was favorable for one species, the species Homo heidelbergensis, which entered in Europe and spread down to the continent. So at the beginning, the species was extinct and another species took his place. If we see the changes, this is a very bad picture, with the megafauna, we see that the megafauna, large herbivores and large carnivores, didn't change so much. The ecosystems were more or less the same. But for small mammals, which is an important part of the ecosystems or the communities, the change was important. So we tried to see if our study of so old sediments, more than 500,000 years ago, was accurate, and we study a locality from the north of Spain, here, Cueva del Mirón, which is conducted by a professor from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a professor from Spain, from North Spain. And we tried to compare our results of the small mammals studies with this younger locality. This locality is known because one of the first burials of Homo sapiens was found here near a rock with some engravings, and this rock was dated, well, the sediments were dated in 15,000 years. This is younger. Those are the Magdalenian people, which is known from the south of France and north of Spain. Magdalenians were people with very wealthy people. They use bracelets. Okay, they make engravings. And we studied the last 15,000 years to see if the changes in the community of small mammals reveals the same as the deep time. So for those not familiar with it, this is the cultural stages in Western Europe. The Mousterian is the cultural stages of the Neanderthals. They are called the Mousterian people. And then we have the Gravettian, Solutrean, Magdalenian, and then Neolithic, the first agriculture, and modern people here. So we have this column, this stratigraphic column from 41,000 years here, to the last 2,000 years in the history of the north of Spain. Well, we can see in this picture that there is a big diversity, at least in small mammals here. But when the Neolithic people, it means the people which were opening the landscape by burning the woods, by agricultural procedures, the several species went not extinct, but they diminished, and several others were spread. We found that the species which were, we analyzed these changes in the diversity with several biodiversity indexes. Here I put just one, the Shannon index, which is here is the total Shannon index, and here are the Shannon index for different types of small mammals. What we found is that there are several highs and lows, decreases and increases in diversity around 1,000 years old, or 12,000 years old. That is the end of the Pleistocene period and the beginning of our era, the Holocene period. There was an important decrease in biodiversity, but then it increased again, increased a little, and then 2,000 years ago, it decreased dramatically. We found this is correlated with the entry of the Roman culture in Europe. The Romans were completely changing the landscapes, and the biodiversity of the small mammals went down. Of course, large mammals went extinct just during the pre-Neolithic era, during the pre-agricultural era. So there was the reason of the large mammals, but the small mammals were maybe the extinction of small mammals were probably due to the Romanization. What I want to say is that during or before these 2,000 years, humans have been, well, a part of the ecosystems, but from 2,000 years ago, since Romans in Europe and other cultures in other parts of the world, we experiment a decrease in diversity, and we have to, I think we have to deal with that, and we have to see what we can do for stop this really dramatical decrease in diversity. And that's all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Gloria. Anybody have questions for Dr. Gloria? We have 1 minute to. You should have. This is the crux of the entire conference.